You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's February 27th, and welcome to the Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News with News Hawks, Reverend Kelly, and myself, Al Graham. We're live here at the Legacy420.com news desk, and we're live on cbgtv.com and at paceradio.net. Good morning, Rev Kelly. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Good Monday, sunny morning. It's really sunny here. Is it sunny where you are? Yeah.
Looking over my shoulder. It's
Yeah.
that time of year again. The sun's
know.
coming in the window, and I'm going to be blinded by the light before you know it.
Well, spring is on its way.
Spring is on its way. Exactly. Talking about spring is on its way, I just want to do a quick reminder to everybody, being that today is February 27th. Tomorrow is the last day to vote for the Can Expo. So here's just a quick reminder on that. There you go. Quick little reminder. Voting ends tomorrow. I'm assuming probably at midnight, at the end. So we got another 36 hours or so for people to get their vote in. If you've already voted, feel free to vote. Again, you're allowed to vote once per day.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Yes.
Sounds like it's going to be a fun time.
It's going to be a good show.
That's right. The already making arrangements to get there.
Okay.
It's a Friday afternoon, downtown Toronto.
That's right. I know. I'm sorry. I'm going to get a teleporter and teleport you in.
Teleport. Hey, maybe we come in on a broom or something. Just never know.
Let's do it.
Yeah, private joke there, folks. But now I'll probably take the GO train in and hook up with Irene, and we'll take the GO train in and have a little bit of a walk, but not bad.
It'll be
better
fun
than
day.
sitting in the highway, man.
Yeah. Well,
I
and
know
you can get a GO bus right to Exhibition Place stop. So you're just right there anyway.
Yeah. Well, the GO train goes right to the exhibition grounds. So as long as we can get off at that spot, we're good to go.
We're good.
Yeah, exactly. And one quick question. Yesterday, Cannabis Temple in Keene.
Yeah, that was fun.
How were things?
We had a good
was.
time. There were a lot of people that came just specifically to squish with you and Mr. Squishy. Because what a wonderful service to be able to provide to the public. They were able to bring their cannabis and have it squished into rosin, which is another form of medicine for some of these people. So that's really great.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, it was great. I got to talk to a bunch of people and go over things, explain things. I wouldn't doubt that some of those people, we will see them again at the next Cannabis Temple.
Yeah, I think they had a good time. We'll do it again in April, the end of April.
Yeah, exactly. All righty, on to the news. First story that's up is Indigenous cannabis entrepreneurs underrepresented in Canada, according to the data. And this is at MJ Biz Daily.
Yeah, research also found that the country's largest provinces by population, Ontario and Quebec, have not reached any government-to-government deals regarding cannabis regulation with First Nations since 2018. And that's a potential factor for their general absence from the federally legal industry.
Yeah, among the 755 unique cannabis corporations licensed by Canada's federal government as of last year, most of them, this is according to mostly cultivators and processors, only 6 were located on Indigenous communities.
That's right. The new data gives credence to claims by some Indigenous leaders that First Nation communities in Canada have been excluded from the economic opportunities and public health benefits stemming from the legalization and regulation of recreational cannabis spelled out under Canada's 2018 federal cannabis law.
Yeah, Darwin Douglas, his CEO of All Nations, told MJ Biz Daily that says, "We talk about reconciliation, but it hasn't happened yet. There was an opportunity with the cannabis legalization." It goes on to say that All Nations in one of the 6 federally licensed producers operating on a reserve. So he's a federally licensed
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Douglas said that Indigenous participation is so low in the cannabis industry because meaningful consultation did not take place when the legislation was rolled out. He says the opportunity was to engage Indigenous people and nations and consult with them on the legalization process and understand how legalization and the building of this emerging cannabis industry was going to apply to Indigenous people.
He goes on to say how the legislation would apply to Indigenous people on their title lands and the territories was the opportunity to develop a system that works for everybody, the people of Canada, the federal and provincial governments, and Indigenous nations and their jurisdictions.
Now, before Canada legalized adult use cannabis in 2018, the Senate Committee on Aboriginal People requested the then proposed bill be amended to address the lack of meaningful consultation with First Nations committees. What happened?
Well, yeah, what happened? As the request was made for a preferential licensing system for Indigenous owned or controlled entities, for instance, to ensure the interested Indigenous communities have the appropriate tools to seize economic opportunities as they arise. The community's proposals were ultimately not accepted by the federal
Wow.
government. Wow.
Wow. Isadore Day, Regional Chief of Ontario for the Assembly of First Nations, previously told MJ Biz Daily that the federal government, provinces, and territories have not done anywhere near an effective job in engaging and considering us within the process.
The AFN has said the First Nations were inherited jurisdiction over economic development initiatives, but federally and provincially, and possess the authority to manage production, licensing, and distribution of legalized cannabis. The AFM noted before legalization, saying as it currently stands, the Federal Cannabis Act makes no room for the inclusion of First Nations governments.
Wow. The federal and
Mhm.
provincial governments must recognize and respect First Nations sovereignty and jurisdiction over the reserves and traditional territories. At the time, AFN also called out the federal government for not including First Nations in its deal with provinces to share excise duty collected on the sale of cannabis.
Yeah, the lack of First Nation inclusion is the cannabis tax framework is a missed opportunity for the federal government to demonstrate its commitment to a nation-to-nation relationship that incorporates First Nations governments into the federation, according to the organization.
Wow. More recently,
Mhm.
the Assembly called on the federal government to recognize First Nations jurisdiction over cannabis and remove regulatory barriers that exclude First Nations from the marketplace. Are they talking about like on the regulated marketplace?
Yeah, on the federal on the regulated marketplace,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. Jason Childs, associate professor of economics at the University of Regina, told MJ Biz Daily that the First Nations were excluded from the law, noting that the text of the law mentions Indigenous only once, and that's regarding the 4-year review process, which itself started a year late.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, and they're
yeah.
saying there's a huge interest. The CEO of All Nations said there remains a huge amount of interest among other First Nations committees in regulating their own cannabis industries. I mean, it brings enterprise to the reserve. Some of these reserves only have smoke shops or gas stations, but this brings enterprise there. They
Yeah.
want to be involved
Exactly, and there's no reason why they're not. They shouldn't be involved. They should have been at the table right from day one.
right from day one. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a missed opportunity. There's no doubt about that.
right. Well,
All right, on to the next story. Here we go. Headline on it says magic mushroom stores are popping up in Vancouver, hoping to open the doors to legalization. And this is
ooh,
in the Globe and Mail.
it's a happy story. It's a bit of a happier one. Oh, Al, my article
Oh,
isn't popping up. Is it doing that for you too?
Oh, I got that. It was there. It was there. It was
It was
there
there and then it
before.
disappeared. Well,
Yes,
we don't have this
yes.
article,
Yeah,
so happy times
I
happening in Vancouver with magic mushroom stores.
yes. Yeah, yeah. There's stores that are opening up there that are mushroom stores and so on and so forth.
We cannot read
And
the article, but we know that
can't
they're
read the
great
article.
stores, good services.
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
But
it's
just so
just
you know,
progress. Whatever way it is, it's progress, right?
we did get yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, we can't read off the stories to you, but we'll maybe on Thursday, Cindy and Glenn will have it in another form. Just so you know, we did get a comment on our last story, and that came from Jeremy Smith. He says he loves this article. Shows the
Oh.
government why they need to listen to the hemp reconciliation proposal.
Oh, Jeremy Smith, we're lucky to know that guy. He's a
Yeah,
champion, that
yeah,
one.
yeah, he was a guest last week on the Pace Radio Show.
I know he was. I know.
Yeah. And he's connected to the Canadian Cannabis Tourism Association
And
that you're part
also
of.
nominated for one of the awards at the Can
Right.
Expo.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. All right. Here we go. I got the next story all lined up, being that we got shortchanged on the last one. Okay. Canadians purchased $4 billion worth of cannabis in 2021, 2022, according to StratCan.
They say that the federal and
It's a lot
provincial
of cannabis,
governments, that it is, they say that the federal and provincial governments have earned $1.6 billion from legal cannabis sales in the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2022. Wow.
This, yeah, wow. This comes from a $4 billion in legal cannabis sales from April 1st, 2021 to March 1st or March 31st, 2022. So it's a year span. The equivalent of $131 per person of legal age to consume cannabis.
Wow. If everybody consumed of legal
Yeah.
age. That's about what it
Yeah.
is for a week for some people I know.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Or more. The new figures released by Stats Canada are the first time that it has included data on recreational cannabis as part of their control and sale of alcohol beverages publication. Federal and provincial governments earned $15.2 billion from the control and sale of alcohol in the same time frame. Oh my goodness.
Wow. Holy smokes. That's a lot of money, man.
That's a
For
lot of money on
yeah.
booze.
It sure is. Let's hope we can do something about that. The
Yeah.
territory, the territory of Yukon had the highest per person cannabis sales at $291, followed by Alberta at 210, Saskatchewan 185, while Quebec had the lowest total at $89, followed by Manitoba at 107, and there was 125 down in Nova Scotia.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, dried cannabis remains the most popular type of cannabis sold, accounting for 71.1% of recreational cannabis sales, followed by inhaled extracts such as vape pens, hash, and rosin at 18.1%, and edibles at 4.1%.
More than $2.8 billion of this was for dried cannabis flower, 721 was for inhaled extracts, 156 million for ingested cannabis extracts such as oils and capsules, 164 million for cannabis edibles, nearly 59 million for beverages, and more than 52 million was from topicals, seeds, and other products. I
Wow.
haven't seen any seeds in the store yet.
I think there are. I heard some campaigns where they're giving them
Yeah,
away if you buy them or something like that.
okay.
Extracts and vape pens have been increasing in popularity since they were first introduced into the market in late 2019 and early 2020, eating into the dried flowers market share. And there's a graph showing the
Yeah,
sales in 2021 and 2022.
yeah.
Yeah.
Quebec, which does not allow the sale of high potency extracts or vape pens or most edibles, sold the highest proportion of dried cannabis at 86%. Newfoundland and Labrador, which until recently also had a ban on vape pens, sold the smallest portion of inhaled extracts at 3.8%. Yeah, Quebec and their cauliflower and figs. I don't know.
That's all they're allowed. Now, Canada assessed more than 500 million in excise tacket. Wow, they got more
Yeah,
than 500 million in excise taxes for the previous fiscal year. Wow, 500
Wow.
million in just that tax alone.
That's the tax, and that's the tax that they're trying to get eliminated,
That's
right?
well, hello.
Hello? Yeah. There we go. That's the end of that story. There's a graph there at the bottom showing you what everything is color wise. You can see how things look that way.
Mhm.
All right. There we go. The it's that's a lot of cannabis.
There's a lot of cannabis.
Yeah. But I think that we're going to see in a story that we've got coming up here that while it's $4 million, $4 billion sounds like a lot of cannabis in Canada. You know, there's one of these states that's coming up that we've got a story on that's just it's so close. So
Yeah.
but I don't want to get to that yet. First up, we got Virginia lawmakers send bill restricting hemp products to the governor, and this comes to us from the Marijuana Moment.
What's going on there? Both chambers of the
Yeah,
Virginia General Assembly voted Friday to pass a bill to toughen regulations on hemp-derived products that contain intoxicating THC through a more robust permitting system and stricter labeling rules.
yeah. Retail marijuana sales remain illegal under the proposed law. Proponents of the bill called it a necessary first step towards cracking down on largely unregulated THC products, including increasingly the common Delta L8 edibles that have created safety and consumer protection. Well, cannabis sales are illegal in the states anyways, in
Yeah,
that state anyways. So why would they be making a separate law for Delta 8?
I don't know, but maybe there's
Yeah,
an epidemic or something, right?
right. Yeah,
I think this will go a long way in making sure that our communities are safe and that folks are buying what they purport to buy. That comes from the House of Delegates Majority Leader Terry Kilgore. Our Scott said before his chamber approved the bill. Actually, Al, a woman on a show last week was
yeah.
saying that when she was on vacation, she was able to pick up Delta 8 in like a grocery store or a
So really,
a
eh?
gas station or something. I think that's what that
Yes,
has to
gas
do with.
stations.
A gas
Yeah,
station. Thank you very much. Yes, she just was able to buy a Delta 8 pen and it gave her a headache and it made her very sick. So maybe they're regulating that.
yeah, that's what they are. They're regulating that, and the reason they have to regulate that because I just said, you know, it's cannabis. Well, no, it's because of the
No,
hemp. It's the hemp farm bill that allows the
that's
hemp product to be
right.
sold, right? So that's why they have to come. That's why they're coming
That's
out with the law. Yeah,
why.
yeah. I realized it right after I had said it, and I thought, oh, so yeah.
No.
They say that the proposal support more mixed in the state Senate, where several Democrats warned it would lead to a even more cultivated regulatory scheme for cannabis. Noting the bill seemed to split regulatory authority between the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and the new Virginia Cannabis Control Authority. Senator Scott Soroville compared it to having one agency regulating beer and a different agency regulating liquor. Well, we
Mm.
do here in Canada.
Yeah. It's the first step towards this is the first step towards a complete mess, they say. And the reason we're doing this is because somebody upstairs doesn't want to talk about it. Well, you know what? I'm glad they are. This is making people sick.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Glenn Youngkin, he's back the hemp bill, but he studiously avoided wading into the debate over whether the state should fully legalize cannabis after Democrats made Virginia the first state in the South to allow possession of small amounts of cannabis. State law also now allows Virginians to grow up to 4 cannabis plants at home, but outside of the state's medical cannabis program, there's still no legal way to purchase cannabis.
Because state and federal law on industrial hemp has loosened, enterprising store owners have started selling hemp derived products made to be a synthetic stand in for cannabis, offering similar but typically milder highs. After several reports of children being sickened by those products, Youngkin and Attorney General Jason Myers have both taken steps to try to limit the availability of intoxicating or mislabeled products.
Now, Senator Emmett Hanger, he said he understood some in the hemp industry weren't going to be happy with the bill because they'll have to stop selling the type of products policymakers want to restrict. He says that we're putting into place a mechanism to get them off the shelves.
Okay. Well, the bill is expected to be signed by Youngkin since it originated with the administration, and it requires all businesses selling an industrial hemp extract or food containing an industrial hemp extract to have a valid permit from the state. Those products can only contain up to 3% or 0.3% of THC and 2 milligrams of THC per package, according to proposed law.
Wow.
What does that mean?
Wow.
It can
Huh?
still have 2 milligrams of THC
In the whole package.
in the whole package.
Right. We're allowed 10 milligrams in Canada.
But these are
They're
for
allowed.
CBD derived products.
No, it says THC there. So they say the new labeling rules would require clear disclosure on what's in each product, including listing both the percentage of milligrams of THC per package and per serving. They would also prohibit any products from being marketed as curing, treating, or preventing disease.
So you can't
Okay.
pass them vitamins anymore.
No.
Consumers, right, deserve to know what's on the label and what's actually in the product, said J.M. Padini, executive director of pro legalization group Virginia Normal. These bills will provide that transparency.
Yeah, and if you violate it, you're looking at a $10,000 a day fine for violations. The Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services has had most of the authority to regulate hemp products, which are sold at a variety of retail businesses, including grocery stores, as you mentioned, pharmacies, and vape shops. However, because the agency focuses largely on food safety, there were oversight gaps with smoke shops offering edibles that didn't fit neatly into the regulations on food sales. The bill aims to address those gaps by empowering the agency or the Attorney General's office to ask the Virginia's Cannabis Control Authority to look into potential violations that might fall outside the purview of the VDACS.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The critics of the bill say the state legislators are taking an overbroad approach to an industry they don't fully understand. The new law, they say, could cause hemp businesses to close or refuse to comply with regulations that they see unworkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Greg Habet, he's a lobbyist for the Virginia Cannabis Association. He says the arbitrary restriction limiting products to 2 milligrams of THC per package could gut the industry despite having no connection to intoxication.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to see them get that Delta 8 off the shelf, but that doesn't seem very fair when they already. That farm bill was so nice. It's something we need up here in Canada with the CBD. If it's 0.3, it's 0.3, right? And that's the regulation for the US. It should stay that way, but I guess people are abusing it and putting that Delta 8 crap in it. People get sick
Creating
from
the
that.
Delta 8.
Yeah.
And people. Yeah, some people have enjoyed it, but obviously there's some that haven't, and that's not the good part. So.
No, synthetic is never good.
Yeah, I'm the whole plant guy here. So, all right, on to our last story before we go to break, and the headline on it says few, if any, harms associated with moderate cannabis use and lung function. And this is in StratCan.
I like it. It's a research in Australia. It's a recent study published in the Medical Journal of Respiratory Medicine, and it looked at whether cigarette smoking or cannabis use and co-use with tobacco are associated with changes in lung function in a population sample of young adults.
Although researchers found evidence suggesting impairments in lung function associated with cigarette smoking, it found few, if any, harms with the relatively low levels of cannabis use. It also found that the co-use of tobacco and cannabis appears to have no additional risk to lung function than those associated with only tobacco use. Cannabis
Now,
to the rescue.
Right to the rescue. The data is from a cohort study of cigarette smoking, cannabis use, and co-use at 21 and 30 years of age and lung function. Subjects were several thousands of now adult children of pregnant women who were recruited into the cohort study over the period of 1981 to 1983 in Australia.
Yeah, they say here our findings regarding cannabis use are suggestive of few, if any, harms associated with relatively low levels of cannabis use evident in a young adult sample. The combined co-use of tobacco and smoking and cannabis does not appear to be associated with harms or any greater use of tobacco smoking alone. So nice and big, bold. If anybody can't miss that, that's just sort of shouting to the guy in the back.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Yes. Yeah. While cigarette smoking was associated with reduced airflow in the lungs, researchers found no consistent association between cannabis use and the measures of lung function, even years after use.
Researchers specifically wanted to look at any possible increased risk with the co-use of cannabis and tobacco, something that has not as of yet been studied in depth. Although they have found no increased risk to lung airflow related to co-use of cannabis with tobacco or of standalone cannabis use, researchers still noted other health concerns with cannabis use.
Lung function was assessed by a trained interviewer at two different follow-up stages, 21 and 30 years of age. The interviewers were trained by a clinician who was an investigator in the study using a spirometer to measure lung airflow.
And at the 21 and 30-year data collections, respondents were asked how many cigarettes they smoked in the past week and how often they had used cannabis in the last month.
At 30 years, respondents were also asked whether they had used cannabis in the last 12 months and how much cannabis they generally used on the days they were consuming it.
So cigarette smoking at 21 or 30 years was associated with a reduction in airflow from the lungs. Yeah. In contrast, researchers found that cannabis use at 21 or 38 years was not significantly associated with reduced lung function, and that those who co-used cannabis and tobacco had the same reduced lung function as tobacco-only smokers.
Oh.
Those who only smoked cannabis and not tobacco had similar lung function as those who didn't use cannabis or tobacco. Wow!
Yeah.
That's a big thing to say. That's a big thing to say. Because we even hear people, doctors or medical professionals, that are prescribing cannabis for people with asthma to clear their lungs. So this study is huge to talk about.
Yes, that's right. I call these follow-up studies to some of the stuff that was done earlier, like Dr. Tashkin. He did a study on cannabis use in the lungs, and he found similar. I reported similar things. So. With tobacco users who were still smoking at the age of 30, the negative impacts on lung function were increased, while those who continued to use cannabis did not have any associated negative effects. Researchers also noted those who used cannabis, even those who also smoked tobacco, used it with less frequency and less volume than they did tobacco. It also noted those who were smoking tobacco by 21 years of age but had quit by 30 had better lung function than those who continue to smoke tobacco. So you must have gotten better. Yeah. Obviously, you're not smoking anymore.
You're not smoking anymore. Wow. So that's incredible. That's incredible to say that, Al.
It's good. It's good to be able to say that.
And they went back. They were from 1981 to 1983. I think they said so. They've been following up with this. That's almost like that 30-year-old study, and they've been looking at these people over life and seeing how it was affected. Wow.
Exactly.
That's good. We don't want to encourage smoking, but if you're going to smoke your doobies over your cigarettes. There you go.
Exactly. All right, Kelly, it's break time. Time to medicate. Kelly and I will be right back after the medical session. You're watching Psychedelics and Educational and Cannabis Educational News here on the Pace Radio Network.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Let's share Pace everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
Pace Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
CBG TV broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
We're back from a medication session. You're live with Psychedelics and Cannabis Education and News here on the Pace Radio Network. Let me get my camera back on there. There I am. I'm back. Well, Rev Kelly.
Yeah.
We've got 5 more stories to cover.
Yeah, this one has a nice picture.
This one has a nice picture. I just got to bring it up. I was busy during the break time and I didn't get this ready.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I was sharing the news. There we go. New study proves that therapeutic benefits of terpenes for the human body, and this comes to us from the fresh toast.
Mm-hmm. Most people still think that the levels of either THC or CBD is in cannabis products are the most important factors to check for.
However, there is a growing breed of educated cannabis consumers who know that THC and CBD don't need to hog the spotlight. If you are after certain effects of cannabis, it's worthwhile to check for the terpene contents in each product or strain which you spend money on. It says these terpenes, which are naturally occurring compounds, not just in cannabis, but in other plants as well, are responsible for the unique flavor profile and aroma in certain strains.
Absolutely. More importantly, terpenes also have medical value and can contribute to the entourage effect, enhancing the therapeutic benefits of other cannabinoids present in the plant. Many terpenes have been found to possess valuable anti-inflammatory properties, treat pain, reduce anxiety, and even treat fungus and bacteria.
Yeah, wow, eh?
Wow.
Who knows? Yeah, certain cannabis products, such as isolates, are processed enough that there's no longer any terpene content or other compounds in it. But for medical cannabis patients, most especially, there are significant benefits to enjoy when consuming cannabis products with a rich terpene profile.
And there's even more studies that prove that there are therapeutic benefits of terpenes. The latest study was conducted by researchers from the University of New Mexico. They analyzed participants who consumed 633 various types of cannabis flower, and they were asked to rate the efficiency of each. The participants consumed cannabis at home when they were tasked to report any changes in their symptoms through a mobile software application. Afterwards, the researchers analyzed these trends.
Now, they say that symptom relief was greatest after consumption of cannabis variants was slightly higher than average levels of the terpenes, glycerine and terpene,
Yep.
and non-detected levels of CBD. In contrast, the chemivores with any detectable levels of CBD provided the least relief, the fewest possible side effects, and the most negative and content-specific side effects. These findings are consistent with previous research showing that naturally abundant CBD in cannabis flower may act as an inhibitor of optimal treatment for certain health conditions, the researchers wrote.
Saying the index system described herein enables the healthcare providers, patients, scientists, and cannabis retailers to easily categorize cannabis products based on measurable plant characteristics beyond THC and CBD in ways that systematically relate to differing levels of symptom relief and side effects reporting, they concluded.
Now, another study in 2021 reveals that certain terpenes help modulate cannabinoid effects on mice subjects. The researchers, who were from the College of Medicine at the University of Arizona, analyzed and modulatory and functional activity for different terpenes, both in vitro and in vivo, alone, and with a cannabinoid agonist known as WIN55, which I understand is synthetic THC.
According to the new study's authors, when the terpenes together with the agonist were given to mice, it resulted in significant analgesic effect compared to when each compound was administered alone. They also added that endogenous cannabinoid receptors were receptive to the terpenes.
And the authors reported that they say that our findings suggest that these cannabis terpenes are multifunctional cannabinoid lignans, boy, words today, that provided support for the entourage effect hypnosis and could be used to enhance the therapeutic properties of cannabinoids.
Wow.
There you go.
Okay, so what
There's
should
some
we should
terpenes.
look at? I know. Science article here. Scientists know of about 20,000 different types of terpenes
Wow.
in the plant world. 20,000. However, only about 150 have been found in cannabis plants. That said, there are a few import terpenes that can definitely make you feel better. Important.
Mycerin is the most common terpene in cannabis. It's responsible for a clove-like smell, which can also be musky and earthy. Mycerin gives off sedative effects, though this compound is extremely beneficial for treating chronic pain and inflammation.
Linalool is a terpene that gives off a floral aroma with spicy or woody notes, like myrcene. It also possesses strong sedative properties and has long been used for its sleep-inducing properties. When I've consumed cannabis from you, Al, I have noticed a lot of linalool in it.
Good
Yep.
stuff. Yeah, because they say it's good for treating anxiety, depression, seizures, stress, and muscle aches. So I guess it's good for that. Limonene, I think I got that right, is another abundant terpene found in cannabis strains. It gets its name from the lemony citrus aroma and flavor in its cannabis. All citrus fruits also possess a great deal of it, and hence the refreshing aroma.
It helps with stress, and it's antibacterial and antifungus properties as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
The next one is pinene. It's famous for its refreshing pine smell. You smell it when you're in pine trees.
Yeah, and its medical benefits include help with the bronchiolation and airflow, reduce inflammation, and also improve your memory.
Yeah, it helps with focus. It really helps with focus. Caryophyllene. It's mostly found in black pepper and cloves.
And they say the conclusion: THC and CBD aren't the most important factors when shopping for cannabis.
Yep.
Why not experiment with cannabis strains that have varying levels of terpenes?
Yep.
So there you go.
I
Cool.
always ask for the terpenes when I go in. I check terpenes
Yeah.
before I pick anything else.
And how do you finding when you ask about that? You getting results?
It's so neat. They know. Well, and a lot of what's happened. A lot of stores have actually switched their menus to be based on terpenes now. I'm finding. So it must be common
Oh,
knowledge that
okay.
people are starting to at least learn that what they're looking for. I'm always looking for pinene. I'm always looking for pinene. Now, whether I'm
Yeah.
going to a reserve retail shop or a legal retail shop at a city store, it's the same thing. They're actually showing what's the dominant terpene profile are. It's neat.
Good to know. All right, on to our next story. Lawmakers across the country file more psychedelics reform, drug decriminalization, and safe consumption site bills, and according to Marijuana Moment.
Right. The first 2 months of 2023 have shown expansive interest in bold drug policy reform in state legislators across the country, most recently with the introduction of numerous new bills touching on everything from psychedelic legalization to authorizing safe drug consumption sites.
Yeah, lawmakers over the next few weeks will be looking at some new bills, and the cannabis legalization movement continues to spread and evolve, but it's become quickly apparent this session that legislators are eager to more holistically move away from prohibition and criminalization. Drug decriminalization, harm reduction, and psychedelics reform have emerged as essential to their effort.
In Colorado, Republican Elizabeth Epps is sponsoring a bill that would permit cities to authorize the establishment of overdose prevention centers where people could use currently illicit drugs in a medically supervised environment and receive treatment resources.
Nice. They say that the Local Control of Life-Saving Overdose Prevention Center Act would provide people with access to sterile consumption equipment, fentanyl testing tools, counseling, substance use treatment referrals, and other harm reduction services. Can you believe, Kelly, that people believe that these is a bad idea?
It's a bad idea, apparently.
Yeah, I just going like,
So
what?
bad.
It just listed a bunch of benefits of
Yep.
why these are a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are they saying that the bad things would be? It would be too close to kids. It would
You're just feeding them their
be
addiction.
available. Oh, feed the addiction, right?
You're
We're
just feeding the
educating them
addiction.
with harm reduction services, but feeding the addiction,
Yeah.
right?
And
No,
there's
they
even
just
comments, just some people are commenting, just let them die. Like,
ah, whoa.
whoa, no.
Preventable drug overdoses are a public health crisis that impact every Colorado community and are a matter of both local and state concern, the measure's findings section says. For far too long, Colorado has disproportionately favored a criminal justice approach to substance use disorders instead of prioritizing it as a public health issue.
That's right. The overdose prevention centers are proven to save lives and increase community safety. OPS led the decreased rates of communicable disease transmission, severely decreased in drug or public drug consumption, greatly reduced public litter of drug consumption equipment, and in their surrounding neighborhoods and associated reduced crime. But people think this is a bad idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Just encourages them, right? Encourages them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're past the point of encouragement. Now is the point where they need help.
It's right, exactly. And we're connecting them to that help.
Right?
So, yeah.
The
Let's go
first
on to
state-sanctioned
Connecticut.
safe consumption. Oh, in Connecticut, House Judiciary Committee has legislation on the table for this session that would decriminalize low-level possession of psilocybin.
Yeah, effective October 1st, 2023, people who are found to possess up to 1/2 ounce of psilocybin mushrooms would face a civil penalty of $150. For each offense, the fine would be between $200 to $500.
In Illinois, a bill from Senator Rachel Ventura would require the Department of Financial and Professional Regulation to authorize the distribution of and make publicly available psilocybin for medical, psychological, and scientific studies, research, and other information.
Yeah. Iowa, down there, Jeff Shipley recently filed a bill to remove psilocybin and psilocin from the state's list of controlled substances, effectively legalizing the psychedelics. A subcommittee is hearing that on Tuesday.
Ooh, that's exciting. In
Mhm.
Maryland, Sheila Ruth and David Moon have filed legislation that would make possession of de minimis levels of drug possession punishable by a civil fine of $100 rather than a criminal misdemeanor.
Right, yeah. In Missouri, the GOP lawmaker there, Rep. Dan Hoy, recently filed a bill that would authorize a research partnership between the State Department of Health and Human Services and the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs Hospital to study the efficacy of using alternative medicine and therapies, including MDMA, psilocybin, and ketamine.
Wow. Wow, we gotta love that. Over in New Mexico, they have introduced legislation to establish an 8-member psilocybin advisory group appointed by the governor that would be responsible for studying and making recommendations on the feasibility of creating a psilocybin therapy program in the state for patients with certain mental health conditions. Wow.
Yeah, New York. The lawmakers recently filed bills to broadly decriminalize drug possession and legalize psilocybin therapy for patients with qualifying conditions. The decriminalization legislation would eliminate criminal and civil penalties for drug possession while also creating a task force that would be responsible for studying and making recommendations about additional reforms.
Wow. So much movement. Down
Oh,
in
big time, eh?
Vermont, they filed a bill that would remove criminal penalties for possessing, dispensing, or selling psilocybin while establishing a new psychedelic therapy advisory working group to study the therapeutic benefits of various substances. They're even studying it there.
Studying it there. Yeah, exactly. Where are you, mouse? I'm trying to find my cursor. Yes, exactly. It's good to see all that
Wow.
going on in different states,
Everywhere.
everywhere across the U.S.
Yeah.
Things are happening. Like who would have
Yeah.
thought?
For mushrooms, for magic mushrooms, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and more.
Yeah. 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 I love it.
All right, on to our next story. Single dose of CBD reduces stress and anxiety in dogs, according to a study. And this is in Mugglehead magazine.
Oh, I like this one. A
Yes.
new study by researchers at the Waltham Pet Care Science Institute has found that giving a single dose of CBD to a dog before a long car trip or when being left alone can significantly relieve their stress and anxiety.
Yep, the study announced this week and was published in the journal Frontiers of Veterinary Science. The Wetham Pet Care Science Institute is part of the Mars Pet Care owned by the pet product company Mars. Never heard of them. For the study, researchers looked at the effects that CBD has on dogs when placed into activities and situations that normally cause stress, such as card games or leaving them alone in a room. Researchers randomly gave a placebo or a CBD formulation to dogs placed under either condition, and their psychological and behavior responses were measured.
They measure
Right.
the dog's psychological responses, such as cortisol levels to measure stress, ear temperature, and heart rate. The researchers also measured other behaviors like whining, trembling, and panting. Results showed that with 4 milligrams per kilogram of CBD, dogs were significantly less sad. Oh my goodness, that's so cute. Had significantly lower cortisol levels, exhibited less whining, and were in more relaxed emotional state overall than dogs that received placebo. All I hear is give CBD, make less sad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love it. I love that.
Jennifer Wessler, Dr. Jennifer Wessler, Chief Medical Officer at the veterinary health thing there at Mars, says that we know pet owners try various approaches from training to medications and supplements to help their dogs cope with stressful situations, often with mixed results.
We're focused on scientific inquiry that generates knowledge that can inform pet professionals and pet owners' decisions. So, this study is important because it gives us new evidence that CBD at the dose studied can benefit dogs in specific circumstances.
And they said that previous studies have shown that a daily oral dose of 4 milligrams per kilogram of CBD over a 6-month period is safe for adult dogs.
Wow.
So there you go. Yep. For our fur babies.
And it'll help them too. It's not just safe for them; they need it.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
yeah. Yeah. I bet you our friends at Ollie Dog would completely agree with all
I'm going to
that
send
stuff.
them this article so they can post it.
There you go. All right. Up next, for Marijuana Moment, Arizona retailers sold more than $1.4 billion in cannabis products in 2022, with December seeing record recreational sales. Remember, all of Canada had $4 billion. This is one state
One
with
state.
a third of that amount. Yeah. Yeah.
Go Arizona. Total Arizona cannabis sales in 2022 mirrored the total from 2021, the first year of legal adult use market. But the paths that each year reached 1.4 billion in sales were strikingly different.
Yeah. In 2021, medical cannabis sales were the driving factor, accounting for nearly 55% of the $760 million of the total. In 2022, recreational cannabis markets soared to nearly 70% of the sales and more than $950 million as the medical market crashed to slightly more than $500 million.
The recreational market closed out 2022 with its best monthly total in December, clocking in at about $86.6 million, a slight increase from the 85.8 in November sales. Medical cannabis sales were stagnant with a slight drop from November to December 2022 from 31.9 to 31.1 month to month.
Yep, the overall total cannabis sales for both categories since the advent of legal adult use in January total for 2021 is $2.9 billion. That's to the B. Wow, Kelly. Big numbers.
Those are big numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, should we go on to the next story so we can squeeze it in?
We have to.
Yeah, I know. We haven't got a lot of time. I'm looking
We're
at
squeezing.
Yes, I'm looking at that there. Okay, here we go. Watching the time. Got to make sure things are on time.
Yep.
All right, next story. New York's new drug problem. What to do with $1 billion weed mountain. And this is according to The Guardian.
I like it. Let's be blunt. No
The
smoking
Observer,
in the
sorry.
plazas. In the message, that's the message that has been placed around Times Square following newly liberalized cannabis laws that have turned New York, some say, into a pot smoking free for all. The legislation has also set off on upstate cultivation boom that produced 300,000 pounds of weed, valued at $750 million in its first harvest.
So far, just a handful of state licensed dispensaries have opened, a complement to hundreds of weed-selling vape shops, more traditionally home delivery services, and those calling out their wares in parks and street corners.
Yeah, it's happening. With the aroma and sales of cannabis seemingly everywhere, the city's mayor, Eric Adams, is committed to redoubling efforts to crack down on unlicensed distributors, raiding dozens of stores, confiscating product, and issuing fines. In one instance, a converted school bus converted school bus selling cannabis near Rockaway Beach Ferry was seized. I'm just picturing it. Oh my God.
Now, Adams says that we have to zero in on the cannabis stuff. We can't have people making a mockery of our system. That system is designed to promote social justice, but critics say the legal market is weighed down with bureaucracy of permits, licenses, taxes, and regulations that, notwithstanding the possibility of arrest and seizure, scarcely troubles the long-standing illegal trade.
Do you have the picture of the mayor up there? Look at this
Yeah,
mayor.
I got him up there.
I would not mess with that mayor. If that I would, if I was in New York, I would be no way would I mess with that mayor. He is tough. He's no business there. Saying over the last 30 years, Black New Yorkers were 15 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis than white New Yorkers. For Latinos, it's 8 times more likely. According to the majority of licenses announced to date, they were awarded to people of color. So that's great progress.
Yeah. Now that pile of cannabis they're talking about, here's a line. At Hudson Cannabis, Melanie Dotson has 2,700 pounds of harvested bud stacked to the roof in the storage containers, awaiting certification from one of the 5 state labs. Value is $300 a pound. Wow.
that value is going to deplete over time. You can't store cannabis forever. It's going to lose its
No.
cannabisness.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I see that we're getting a little bit low on time there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll have to shut this story
Interesting.
down.
We'll see what happens in New York. More things are being regulated, but I want to hear more
Yes,
about buses being. I love that.
exactly. Yeah. Well, there was. I remember seeing the pictures that were online
Yeah.
of the bus that was at Times Square that
Wow.
was selling
It was just
cannabis.
selling
It
weed
was
right out of it.
like, it's not, doesn't look like a regular school bus or anything, but it was all decked out. It was all painted up and the whole bit. It was really good.
Oh my goodness, I would love to have gone on that bus. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, New York, you're doing something fun at least.
Yes, exactly. Well, Rev Kelly,
Yeah.
we've got to play the closing. We've got to get another promo in there. We got 2 more days left of voting at the Cannon Expo, so we'll make sure that we get people there as well as to attend. We've got a code, Pace Radio 3, I believe is the code. People can get a reduction on their tickets.
Yes.
More on that to come, but look forward to the event. So.
Yes, it's gonna be fun.
All right, anything you want to pass on or say to anybody before we leave?
Just stay warm. Stay warm. Spring is coming.
Spring is coming. That's right. All right, people. Other than that, from the Legacy420.com news desk, that's a report for February the 27th. And thanks to our buds at the Camelford Lifestyle Shop, got the hat on, and the Legacy420.com. And in closing, I'd like to say thanks for watching, and don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.